more evacuees today. Corey Finn is an equine vet checking for smoke inhalation.
And secondary, burns, being, ash in the air or particles like landing on the horses or if they get too close to the fire. But so far, so good.
The biggest issue she's hearing about, some horses didn't want to get in their trailer and were left behind. Lucky for Stephen Miles, that wasn't the case, but his day isn't over yet.
I have more back at the house. I got donkeys, goats, rabbits, birds, got all kinds of stuff, and, it was just unnerving.
Now, a handful of horse owners are actually staying here. There are volunteers, animal services organizations helping out. So far, we've heard of 2 minor injuries to horses. The good news, though, in all this is that this is a really tight-knit community. They started emailing each other and helping out and even evacuating their horses before any evacuation orders even went out. That's the latest from here. Reporting live in Watsonville, Christy Smith, NBC 11 News.
Thank you, Christy. It is evident the community is coming together to help all victims of the fire. 4 alpacas are safe and sound this morning after a 2.5-hour rescue operation. They were trapped in the smoke and their owners were out of town. Misting Heftington and Elise Lear did what they could. They're certified through the state to do large animal rescues. Their vehicle couldn't handle the steep terrain, so they walked up the mountain and had to chase the animals with the fire in sight.
We could see the orange haze of the fire, and it was quite smoky up there. But we went up to take care of them anyways.
When you approached them, were they scared? Kind of describe how they were acting.
We had to chase them for probably 20 minutes to catch them.
You met the family, and
I talked to them on the phone just within about 5 minutes ago, and they were very pleased to hear that their family, their loved ones, and the animals that they care for so much had made it back down here safely. They were amazed that somebody was able to go up and get them.
The SPCA for Monterey County is helping with the disaster response by providing pet crates, blankets, bowls, and food. We will have continuing coverage throughout the day. If the governor arrives at the command post during this newscast, we'll bring you his briefing live on the air and on NBC11.com.
An early morning fire in San Francisco sends a firefighter to the hospital.
Also coming up, rebuilding the region damaged in China's deadly earthquake. What local Chinese delegates are telling us this morning.
And a rare tornado in Southern California. The severe weather that even brought a little snow to the Southland. Investigators trying to figure out what started a 2-alarm fire in San Francisco's Richmond district just before 5 o'clock this morning. Firefighters were called to a 3-story home on Balboa Street near 19th Avenue. The fire quickly spread to another home a few feet away. One firefighter was taken to the hospital after a piece of debris fell on his head, but he is expected to be okay. Nobody else was hurt, and that fire was out within about a half an hour.
China announced a plan to rebuild the areas hardest hit by last week's devastating earthquake. Meanwhile, the death toll climbed overnight to 55,000. NBC 11's Mark Mullen reports from Sichuan province.
Talk about ambitious. Officials in China today announced a 3-year plan to rebuild all damaged parts of Sichuan province. Bear in mind, we're not talking just about roads and some buildings, but in the city of Bechuan's case, for example, they're talking about relocating an entire city, rebuilding a city from scratch, but with $10 billion+ earmarked, and the legendary Chinese workforce, they likely will accomplish that in that 3-year plan. There was a shift today made from the rescue effort to the recovery effort. No one has been found alive in rubble since Wednesday, though officials say for their part they are still holding out hope in this disaster whose death toll is now 55,000, with almost 30,000 still missing. Mark Mullen, NBC News, Sichuan Province, China.
Thanks, Mark. Now, 11 days after the devastating earthquake, the Chinese consulate in San Francisco is also helping to keep locals updated. A briefing for family occurred about a few moments ago, just wrapped up. NBC 11's Lisa Bernard live in San Francisco with what the consulate has to say. Lisa?
Good morning, Brent. A spokesperson with the Chinese consulate basically updated the numbers, thanked the Bay Area for generous donations, and then issued a plea for help. Difa Tong stood for a moment of silence to remember those who died in China's earthquake on May 12th. Tong described the rough conditions in Sichuan province, and he asked people specifically to donate tents. Indeed, we saw folks arriving at the consulate with tents in hand. Tong says the Bay Area has been generous, donating over $1.19 million in the past 11 days. He spoke of crushed villages, crumbling roads, and impassable tunnels. Tong insisted the Chinese government is compassionate and honest in its release of information. But again, Tong stressed the need for tents, saying the consulate will coordinate the delivery. One San Jose man came to drop off a tent. His family lives in the area hit.
They are not hurt this time, but they're about 100 miles away from the epicenter. So they're really kind of scared, and a lot of them live in the street now.
As you know, Chinese factories are working 24 hours for making more tents, but it's still not enough. The tents need to be some large tents can holding like a family member. They can stay as a home.
Difa Tong says a book of condolences here at the consulate has been signed by 1,700 people, including Mayor Gavin Newsom, Attorney General Jerry Brown, and Police Chief Heather Fong, among others. And he told us an interesting story. He says the captain of the Costco Busan, of course, that's the boat that hit the Bay Bridge Tower last November. He says the captain came here to the consulate and brought with him 2 crew members. Those crew members who are Chinese and who have been detained in the U.S. He says they came and donated as much money as they could afford. Live in San Francisco, Lisa Bernard, NBC 11 News.
Thank you, Lisa. A strange white substance shut down part of Mineta San Jose International this morning. At 8 this morning, an American Airlines ticket agent reported a powdery substance on their counter. Since no one could identify what it was, the counter and the security checkpoint nearby was shut down and a hazmat team called in. About an hour and a half later, the powder was determined to be a starch-based food product and everything reopened.
Well, we did have about an hour's disruption in Terminal A here at the airport, which caused some wrinkles for passengers getting through security and getting into their flights.
So far, no major delays have been reported, although the rest of the airport was especially crowded, due in part to Memorial Day weekend.
We also have some breaking news out of Vallejo. A few moments ago, the city's attorney office officially filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy protection in federal court. That move comes after the city council voted earlier to become the first major city in the state to declare bankruptcy. And the city tried for months to come up with a plan to get out of its fiscal crisis. But after months of failed negotiations for cheaper labor contracts, the city council decided that bankruptcy was the best option. The city has a $16 million deficit. They think they're going to run out of money by the end of June. So we've been watching this for a while, and they have just officially filed for bankruptcy now.
We're also watching the morning commute. Not too many problems out there, but drivers could be distracted because it's the smoke out there.
Definitely. And the reason why traffic flow was lighter this morning, probably because it's a vacation holiday weekend, but folks are distracted already because they're thinking about that. Now they're going to see things that they hadn't planned on seeing maybe. We'll show you the areas affected by, at least visually, by this fire. Now 17 over onto the left side and 101 coming off to the right side of your screen. Those are the major throughways down past the areas where the fires are in the Santa Cruz Mountains. The areas dotted there with those fire icons, those are just some of the closures that are reported. Basically, smaller residential streets through the areas of the Santa Cruz Mountains are what's closed. Summit Road, now we call this the Summit Fire. Summit Road is at 17. That is an intersection that a lot of folks in the Bay Area know. That is open, though. It is closed south of that portion heading to Mount Madonna County Park. Now, that is just an important note as we do focus on 17. This morning, we did not see any significant delays related to the fire. There were some construction problems, some pavement work that they had been doing, and that caused some delays. But right now, 17 remains clear, as it has all morning into Santa Cruz, as far as any delays or any incidents reported because of visibility. Now, you will have some haze in the air, and that may be a problem here. Chopper 11 is over the the Santa Cruz Mountains. It looks like some fire crews are heading through the area. Chopper was near Watsonville as a good reference as far as the large city. They talked about Glen Valley Road, Hazel Dell Road, Browns Valley Road. All of those are areas that should be evacuated. If you don't have to go through the area, don't, because look how close that is to the fire and the smoke throughout. Watch for that, folks. There will be some slowing on surface streets, and of course the closures we're watching. 152 has remained open. That is good news, at least if you're going from Gilroy over to Watsonville. No closure, but again, avoid Hecker Pass Road anyway. 129 south of there is not a problem. And if you're using 152 from 101 over to I-5 in your travels getting out of here going to Los Angeles, that has remained clear. That is clear. You can access Pacheco Pass and Casa de Fruta. That's a good reference for a lot of people. Here, the San Mateo Bridge. Now, this is a little bit of an optical illusion because of the light bouncing off of the particles in the air. Makes it look a little worse than it actually is. But here's some of the haze that you might see throughout the Bay Area. There you go, all the way up at the San Mateo Bridge.